Adventures of Ellery Queen. The United States government brings you a special program starring Ellery Queen, the master detective in person. A program dedicated to a speedier victory for the United Nations. Presenting the adventures of Ellery Queen, starring the celebrated detective, and with him his secretary, Nicky Porter, his father, Inspector Richard Queen, and Sergeant Veely, in an exciting new mystery involving the United States Air Force. Now, after you've been presented with a problem, Ellery Queen will give you a chance to guess the answer before he gives you his solution. And in the studio today, we have Miss Virginia Field and Mr. Ed Sullivan, who will try their luck as armchair detectives. And now, here is Ellery Queen, the master detective and your host for the next quarter hour.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? Our mystery concerns one American fighting man who came back, and a great many who did not. I call it The Adventure of the Wounded Lieutenant.
Ellery, Nicky, come on in.
Hello, Dad.
I've got some news about an old friend of ours.
Who's that, Inspector?
Jack Sender. Used to be Detective Sender, Homicide, Brooklyn, USA. He's now Lieutenant Sender, one of Uncle Sam's finest.
Oh.
Jack Center, isn't he the chap who enlisted the day after Pearl Harbor?
That's our Jack. Well, word's come that Jack is back in the big town after seeing action far, far away. Wheely's out trying to locate him now. By thunder, I'm taking Jack out and we'll paint the town.
Can I help you paint, Inspector?
Sure, let's make a party of it. Hi, Wheely. Locate Jack yet?
Yeah, Inspector. I located him.
Wheely.
What's wrong, Sergeant? Where is Lieutenant Center?
The base hospital. I tell you, when I heard about it, Jack come back. Half of him.
Half of him?
Yeah, both legs gone. He's asking for you, Inspector.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
So, here I am, Inspector.
Yes, Jack. We know all about it.
Oh, I don't mean what happened to me, Inspector. I was lucky.
Lucky, Lieutenant?
Well, at least I'm back, Miss Porter. My buddies, Big Tex and Little Indiana, practically my whole outfit, they'll never come back.
Tell us what happened, Lieutenant.
Well, we were overseas, Ellery. Never mind where. We had our orders, secret orders, an important offensive assignment. Its success depended on catching the enemy completely by surprise. Every precaution was taken against a leak. And yet...
They were waiting for you, Jack?
In the exact spot, Inspector. At exactly the right time. Outnumbered us 20-1. We never had a chance. The lives of all those swell guys sacrificed. Because there was a leak somewhere.
Wasn't an investigation made at the base, Lieutenant?
On the spot, I'm told. They grabbed the rat who passed the vital information out of the enemy. Half-caste native waiter. They couldn't get a word out of him. How did he find out? Such exact information. I'll vouch for every man in that outfit.
Suppose you give us an exact account of what happened the last time you and the boys were in the presence of the native spy, Lieutenant.
Well, we were in a little tavern, sitting around a table. Tex and Indiana and I, just kicking the time away. So what did the USO gal say, Tex?
Say, Jack, why, she said to me, Lieutenant, can you jitterbug? I said, ma'am, can a hound dog scratch, please? Why, the boys even named our ship Jitterbug after me.
How'd you make out, Tex?
Indiana, I darn near busted my leg, and two of hers.
How about another round?
Yeah, man.
Hey, boy, here you are.
Yes, sir. 3 more pops, boy.
3 pop, yes, sir.
Fight for Uncle Sammy, see the world on Sody Pop, and like it. Hey, Indiana, why you moping around like a doggy?
Me, Tex? I was just thinking.
Thinking? About what, Indiana?
Home, Jack.
Oh.
Oh, here's the garçon with her pop. Lucky the boys back home can't see me.
Grandpa, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I will clean table.
Elm Street would look mighty good to me right now. Elm Street and Maisie. The kid.
Yeah. I wonder how Broadway looks in the dim out.
You know, it's a funny thing. When I was a yearling riding herd, I used to say to my horse, Bronc, someday I'm going to see Africa, or Alaska, or South America. The places you'd read about.
The last letter I got, Maisie wrote, the kid's 10 months old. He's trying to walk already. Kid that's never seen his old man. Me here, and him and his mother on an Indiana farm.
Hey, guys, look at the time.
Yeah.
Oh. We better hit the hay if we're going to get a good night's rest.
I wish I could see my kid tonight.
Oh, buck up, Indiana. You're going to see the dawn come up like thunder. Hey, boy.
Yes, sir.
Bring us the check.
And that's all, Ellery. When we went into action, there was the enemy laying for us. Were we surprised? A handful of us that lived to be surprised. I saw them all go. Tex, who was always cheering us up. Poor Indiana. This kid will never see him in this world.
Gosh, Ellery, I can't understand it.
You should, Nicky. There was a crime committed.
Yes, sir.
A crime, Maestro? Oh, you mean that two-time native waiter, that dirty spy?
No, Veely. I mean the crime by which the spy was tipped off.
Tipped off? Now, look here, Ellery. If you're cracking that one of my buddies was a traitor...
No, Lieutenant. He was a good American soldier who was committing the crime without realizing it. If he'd been on the alert, watching his tongue, he'd have stopped himself in time.
What crime?
The crime of loose talk, Jack.
Yes. In this case, Lieutenant, loose talk gave your secret attack away to the native spy. He transmitted his information to the enemy. Result? Annihilation of an entire fighting force.
But, Ellery, I didn't notice any loose talk in Lieutenant Center's story.
Of course not. Nobody said anything that night that gave the show away.
But someone did say something that gave the show away. In fact, several things. Lieutenant, that night loose talk answered 3 vital questions the enemy is always interested in. What, when, and where.
And you know, too, Ellery?
Yes, I do.
Well, I haven't even told you what branch of the armed forces we were in.
All right, Lieutenant, I'll prove it to you. I'll tell you what kind of attack you were going to make, when you were going to make it, and where. All from loose talk. And there, ladies and gentlemen, you have the mystery, and I hope a solution as well. Nicky, will you be good enough to introduce our guest armchair detectives?
Well, Ellery, our first guest is the lovely star of stage and screen, Miss Virginia Field. Miss Field is currently starring in the smash Broadway hit Dough Girls and the new Sol Lesser motion picture success, Stage Door Canteen. Our second guest is the famous newspaper columnist, Ed Sullivan. In 2 nights at Madison Square Garden, Mr. Sullivan raised more than $500,000 for the Red Cross and Army Relief. All right, Ellery?
Miss Field, what kind of attack was the lieutenant involved in?
I don't know.
When was the attack to be made?
The attack was to be made at dawn.
And where was the attack to be made?
The attack was to be made in the east, I believe.
Thank you, Miss Field. And now, Mr. Sullivan, what kind of attack was the lieutenant involved in?
Well, it was one of 2 kinds. It was either an airplane attack or a motorboat torpedo attack.
When was the attack to be made?
At dawn.
Where was the attack to be made?
I'd say on China from India.
Thank you very much. I won't tell you now whether you've solved the mystery correctly, because that wouldn't be fair to our audience. But if you'll listen, I'll tell you how I solved the adventure of the wounded lieutenant.
But, Ellery, I don't see how you could know.
But I do know, Lieutenant, exactly as that native spy knew.
Well, okay. What kind of attack were we making?
Well, Lieutenant, take that little story Tex was telling you in Indiana in the canteen. Exactly what did Tex say? He said, why, the boys even named our ship Jitterbug after me. Innocent remark, but careless. So careless, it answered the first of those 3 vital questions.
But how did that give away Jack's outfit, Maestro?
You tell him, Dad.
Neely, to what type of fighting equipment do the armed forces permit the boys to give a jazzy name like Jitterbug? A battleship? Cruiser? Aircraft carrier? No, nothing like that.
I know. A plane.
Right, Nicky. And since Tex called it our ship, it could only have been a plane with a crew, a big fellow. So the native spy knew that Lieutenant Center and the others were airmen, that the attack would be by air and by big planes, a bombing attack.
Yeah. But how about when, Ellery? You said we gave away the time of the attack, too.
At the end of your three-cornered conversation, Lieutenant, you called attention to the hour. Indiana agreed it was time to go to bed. Then Tex said, "Buck up, Indiana. You're going to see the dawn come up like thunder." Dawn. Obviously, the attack was to be made at dawn after you boys had to get a good night's rest. Dawn of the following morning.
Oh, sure, that's it.
I caught those two, Ellery. But how about where? The place of the attack.
Dad, why should Tex use the very unusual phrase, "You're going to see the dawn come up like thunder"? Because having the place of attack on his mind, it unconsciously suggested that unusual phrase to him. So the clue must be in the phrase. Where does that phrase come from?
Where the dawn comes up like thunder?
Rudyard Kipling's poem. The famous song.
Oh, of course. On the road to Mandalay.
Yes, Mandalay, Burma.
Oh.
So I knew that you men were probably based in India. And I knew, as that native spy knew, that your outfit was going to make a bombing attack on the road to Mandalay the next morning at dawn. Ladies and gentlemen, bits and pieces of information scientifically put together to make a complete pattern, these are what our enemies use to learn the secrets of ourselves and our allies. And unfortunately, many of these bits and pieces are given to them by entirely innocent people. Not only by servicemen, as in the story you've just heard, but by civilians, too. For example,
A girl mentions that her sweetheart is sailing. A mother can't resist talking about her sailor son's ship. A businessman mentions the cargo of trucks he saw on the docks. And a vessel carrying our soldiers and their equipment may be attacked, perhaps sunk, at sea.
So remember, all good Americans, careless talk costs lives. Think before you talk. When troop movements, ships, production of war materials are involved, follow this simple rule. If you hear it from someone, don't repeat it. If you see it yourself, don't repeat it. But if you read it in the newspapers or magazines or hear it on the radio, then it's public property and you can go ahead and talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellery Queen. You have just heard The Adventure of the Wounded Lieutenant, a guest performance of the adventures of Ellery Queen, especially transcribed for the United States government and dedicated to a speedier victory for the United Nations. Our thanks to Ellery Queen, Nicky, Inspector Queen, Sergeant Beely, and the supporting cast, to our guests Virginia Field and Ed Sullivan, to Director Bruce Cameron and Conductor Charles Paul for their splendid contribution. This is Ernest Chappell asking you to remember that careless talk costs lives. Don't give aid to the enemy. Think before you talk. Don't discuss troop movements, ships, production of war materials with anyone. Follow these simple rules. If you hear it from someone, don't repeat it. If you see it yourself, don't repeat it. But if you read it in the newspapers or hear it on the radio, it's safe to talk about it.